Good morning, everyone. Please take a seat if you are not seated yet, because we would like to start. We have a very exciting program, so I don't want to lose any minute. So that's why, we just need to make sure we get started. It's not a problem that probably during, the upcoming minutes, there will still be some people joining, but there are also people watching online on our YouTube channel, so we also don't want to let them wait for the live streaming. Welcome everyone, my name is Martine van Velen. I am EIT Food Director of the Region West, and I am very happy to welcome you all to this session today. First of all, of course, happy to see you all live, because I mean it's after this 1.5 year or maybe even longer period where some people didn't see each other face to face. It's always very nice to be in a place together again. But also because it's a happy day today, because we are going to open our Paris hub. So therefore, it's also very nice to have you all here. I will quickly run through the agenda with you, if I can have my presentation ready. Because then I will just show you what we are going to do this morning, and then also in the afternoon, of course. I will start first with explaining a little bit about EIT Food. I know there are a lot of people in the room who already know very well what EIT Food is and who we are. But there are also some new people here around. So I will just quickly run through EIT Food, who we are. Then we have Benoit Buntings, who is our Director of Business Creation, and he will explain a little bit more about our business creation programs. And then I will give you a little bit more information about the new European Bauhaus, which is actually a new European project, especially also focusing on cities. And since we are in Paris, I would really also love to tell you a little bit more about that program. Then we have 2 roundtables. The first one is about the topic of today, future food in cities. And we have some very nice keynote speakers there. Sevinch R. from the Paris region, Gaël Gaillard from the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, and René Silvestre, who is the owner and founder of Pépinière 27. And we will also, together with them, discuss a little bit about what should be the future of food in cities and what are the challenges that we're currently facing. Then we have a session with some very nice key stakeholders of our new Paris program. So the FAN, the Food Acceleration Network program, will be started here next year. And we invited some of the key stakeholders to tell us why they are happy about this happening here in Paris, and also a little bit broader discussion about how can we connect corporates with startups, and what is a good way to work together. So I'm also very much looking forward to that session. And we will close the session with also a celebration. Before lunch, we will have a small celebration again because of this launch of the hub. Then in the afternoon, we will, I would say, make it happen, because in the morning we will talk a little bit about, okay, how should everything be, should we do everything? And then in the afternoon is really time for making it happen. So it's really about the matchmaking. Startups will pitch their brilliant ideas and the product services. And then there is a lot of opportunity and time to connect with also the other stakeholders here in the room. So I think it's very nice. And we will start after lunch plenary here with some testimonials also from some very nice cases where indeed it was a good match and it really worked, a nice corporate startup collaboration. I will tell you a little bit more about how we are going to do the breakout rooms after lunch. I will not bother you with this now. So what I said, I'm first going to show you a little bit more about EIT Food. So I will start with the bigger picture, because EIT Food is not alone. We are actually part of a bigger community of what we call knowledge and innovation communities. Those are all founded by the European Institute of Technology and Innovation. And it's really to drive the innovation in Europe, and by supporting entrepreneurship and innovators, students, really make it happen together with all these different stakeholders. And as you can see, these knowledge and innovation communities are all about challenges, societal challenges that we face. So you can see climate kick, for example, very obviously, urban mobility, raw materials, energy. So all these topics that are very important in society nowadays. And as you can see, also EIT Food is part of this bigger community. So zoom into EIT Food. What challenges are we tackling? Well, I mean, this is all very obvious, of course. You know, we have social problems. We are growing to 10 billion people by 2050. How are we going to feed them? Not with the current food system. We really need to change it if we want to make it happen. Also, the problems that we face, for example, with undernutrition or even overweight and all the diseases that are linked to that. Then the second very important one is the environmental footprint, of course. As you know, food production takes a lot of fresh water, a lot of CO2 emissions, and also 1/3 of the food is wasted. So those are also challenges we need to face. And then, oh, I missed my slide there, but then we also have entrepreneurial challenges that we face. And actually, I think that's also a big opportunity, because what you can see is that not so many startups yet are in the food sector, but there is a huge potential. What I already saying, if we need to feed these 10 billion people by 2050, then you can imagine that there is a huge opportunity for startups in this area. So therefore, I also am very happy to welcome all the startups today. We are covering Europe. Our mission is really to create a world where everyone has access to sustainable and safe and healthy food. We also want to work on the trust and fairness in the food system. So that is our mission, and we do it together with a lot of stakeholders all across Europe, as you can see. And here is just a picture just to give you an overview of some of the stakeholders, because this is actually an old picture and we are much bigger currently again. But just to show you that on one hand we have stakeholders from farm to fork, so from farmers to, for example, producers, to retail, to restaurants, where we are now. And on the other hand, also these different types of organizations. So NGOs, big corporates, startups, universities, research centers. So this whole, nice flavor of all kinds of stakeholders that we have. These are things to show. I just told you the challenges that we face, but we also want to, of course, create impact, because if you want to change the food sector, you need to create impact, and that's why we also developed some impact factors that are related to those challenges. So, for example, better health outcomes, improved environmental impact factors. Then these are 6 of our what we call focus areas, so areas within the food sector that we really want to tackle. As you can see, there are some of the areas that we will also tackle today, this afternoon, in the breakout room. So, for example, we have a session around alternative proteins, one about agri-food, and one about circular food systems. And these are the different programs that we do, because of course the question is, how are we going to transform the food sector? Well, we have different programs. So here you can see, for example, education. It's not only about students, about masters and PhDs, but it's also about professionals and, for example, farmers. So we have a lot of nice education programs for them. Then we have a big innovation pillar, which is more about, again, bringing stakeholders together around a certain topic or around a certain technology, and work together to make it happen, to make it, put it on the market. Then we have, of course, our big entrepreneurship program, and Benoit will tell us more in a few minutes. and also public engagement. And public engagement is more about the wider public, I would say, not only to inspire and inform them to change, but also really to co-create together with them. And that is also what, for example, this new European Bauhaus program is all about. Well, then this is just quickly to show why we are here in Paris, because we will have, or actually we already have an office now, very close to Station F at the Chevrolet, Rue de Chevrolet. And also we will work together with Station F, because one of our, partners, main partners are located there, Shake-Up Factory, and they will implement the program here in Paris. This is just shortly, I just also want to notify you on, is that we have currently an open call, which means that every small consortiums are happy to, apply to this call with some kind of product or technology that you want to bring to the market. If you look at our website, you can see it and you can find more information. It's really open for everyone, so startups, corporates, and NGOs, whatever, you can go together, maybe even today, and then if you say, hey, we have together we have a very nice something that we want to do in this project, you can apply and you can receive some funding for making it happen. Then I think I'm going to give the floor to my colleague Benoit, if he is around. Yes, he is. And he will tell us a little bit more about the business creation program.
Thank you, Martine. That's the clicker. All right. Bon, bonjour à tout le monde et bienvenue à Paris. It's a pleasure to be here today to inaugurate this French hub of EIT Food. So my name is Benoit Buntings. I'm the Director of Business Creation at EIT Food. And I will take a few minutes now to explain what we do and what do we offer to startups, entrepreneurs, but also to corporate in our business creation or entrepreneurship activities. Okay, something happens with the slide, no problem. So EIT Food is a springboard for agri-food entrepreneurs and to support them in launching, accelerating and scaling the agri-food business across Europe, but also beyond. We really believe at EIT Food that the agri-food entrepreneur and the startups are playing and will play a bigger role even in the future to face the big challenges, to meet the big challenges that are faced by the food system and helping in the transformation of the food system to make it more sustainable, more trusted, and healthier. I hope this will work. Okay. So we've been in business for 4 years now. EIT Food started its first activities at the beginning of 2018. And in the business creation area, we have supported more than 350 startups over those past four years. Only if we take last year, we have supported more than 120 startups from across Europe, covering the whole food system, and at different development stages. Those startups have been receiving support from us to facilitate their access to the market. We facilitate collaboration and pilot projects between the partners at EIT Food and the startup supported. But we also provide them with direct financial support. More than 10 million was invested in investment or grants to support those startups, with a huge leverage effect, as only last year, which was obviously a complicated year with the COVID, those startups have attracted more than 170 million euros. But what do we offer in practice to those startups? We have designed 3 flagship programs that are run pan-European to support the 3 target groups of entrepreneurs and startups. The first one is the Seedbed Incubator, in which we identify in Europe those diamonds in the rough, and we basically help them to connect with their potential customers and with our partners to make them product ready and launch new businesses. The second program is the EIT Food Accelerator Network, in which we polish those diamonds and we make them partnership ready, so that they are ready to engage in the marketplace and to collaborate reliably with their corporate partners. And finally, the association Rising Food Stars, where we give exposure to those high-value diamonds, the ones that have already traction, obviously, from customers and attention from investors and corporates so that they can scale internationally across their home country. Our goal at EIT Food is obviously to create impact. On the one hand, economic impact. We want to select and support the startups that have the biggest potential to be really the leading companies in the ag and food tech space in Europe for the coming decades. We want them to create jobs, to attract capital, to increase their sales, and really position Europe on the center of the map of ag and food tech on the world. But also we want those startups to create societal and environmental impact in line with the United Nations SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, but also with the objectives of the new EU Green Deal, which is, by the way, those objectives are fully aligned with the impact pathways at EIT Food. So what do we offer? The startups in the program receive mainly access to this huge network, access to the stakeholders coming from corporates, experts, infrastructure providers, policymakers, so all those stakeholders that can help them to grow their company. And we provide them services to accelerate their access to markets, such as facilitating pilot projects with corporates, but also access to finance. As we all know, those companies and entrepreneurs need money to grow their business faster. As an example, in the access to finance services, we have partnered this year with PigBridge being one of our partners at EIT Food, to launch a private VC, a seed fund, an investment fund, to support startups in the ag and food tech space with tickets that can go from 300K to 500K, so we are focusing on seed and early stage. And this fund has just started, and it will invest in between 30 and 40 companies in the next 4 years. But EIT Food also has the possibility to invest directly into startups that we support in our programs through the EIT Food Startup Impact Fund. We've started last year and already made up a portfolio of more than 25 companies that have received also financial support from 50K to 500K from EIT Food. So EIT Food in France. As Martin showed, from the very beginning, EIT Food has been present in France because we have French partners. You can see some names here on the slide on the left-hand side. But we have also supported already, and we are keeping on supporting French startups, not only from Paris, but also from other regions in France. Those startups that you can see here, just a sample of startups that are today in our accelerator or in the Rising Food Star Association, and also part of our investment portfolio. We want to continue to do that job. We want to expand our activities in France, and that's the reason why we inaugurate today this French hub in Paris. We believe that we can really bring an additional support to connect the French agri-food tech ecosystem to the European ecosystem and other ecosystems in other European countries to accelerate the development of those great companies. So we don't only support the startups, right? I explained the programs. We only bring an important service to corporates that are participating to those programs. Those corporates, such as Danone, but also we have started now collaborating with other companies, such as IFF here in France, are accessing those services and those different hubs that we have all across Europe to source startups, identify the right startups that can develop those technologies that will, solve their issues, the challenges that they face in the industry, or the challenges that we all face to meet those goals of the EU Green Deal. So I just welcome you now to invite all the people that you know, all the entrepreneurs in France, to apply to our programs. I'm pretty sure that we'll have a lot of applications for the new cohort 2022 in the French hub of our activities. But also I invite all the corporates in France to reach out to us to see how they can benefit from the service and those connections to the EU agri-food tech ecosystem. So thanks a lot and have a good day.
Thank you, Benoit. And also for your information, we actually will continue this subject also in the second roundtable that we will have, and together with some of the stakeholders already here in Paris. I will just very quickly, because I also see that the time is running very fast, so I will just very quickly announce also this new European Bauhaus project. Actually, it's about bringing the Green Deal to the people, and it's really something that Ursula von der Leyen really wants to, push into Europe. It's a little bit of her baby, I would say. It's really about creating this beautiful, inclusive, sustainable Europe after COVID. So, okay, it sounds a little bit fuzzy. It's also a little bit fuzzy, I have to say. But we try, of course, as EIT Food to see, okay, how can we work with it? So we had, translated a little bit this what is beautiful, what is sustainable, what is together. It's about, bringing people together. It's about co-creation with different stakeholders. It's about sustainability, circularity, and it's about, also accessibility for everyone. So that means, for example, when you think about food, that it should be also affordable and accessible for everyone. Why I really love that we are here, and actually also I have to say that is why we chose this place, because also New European Bauhaus, what I already said, it's about involving everyone, including the consumers or the citizens. And I mean, what is a better place to start than here in the heart of Paris? I mean, we are here, Centre Pompidou, and I mean, in a restaurant where you really have interaction with the citizens. And René Silvestre will also talk a little bit later about that concept, because startups can actually use this place to test new concepts with the citizens who are here around. So the people that come to eat here, they can, experiment a little bit with their new concepts. So that is really why I believe this is a place what is reflecting the new European Bauhaus very much like a design lab, an accelerator, a network to make things happen. Now, what I said, EIT Food has some topics around this new European Bauhaus. So, for example, we want to think about urban farming and regenerative agriculture. We want to think about circularity, indeed. How can you limit food waste and have a real utilization of bioproducts and bio-waste? And also, again, this affordability and accessibility, and also actually healthy food, healthy nutrition for everyone. We do that in different programs again, so that's a little bit the how are we doing it. So with citizen engagement, we organize hackathons to indeed include all citizens to come also up with ideas. Then we have an education program where we, for example, have makeathons where we also want to take these ideas that come from hackathons a little bit to the next step. Maybe by prototyping, for example, and experimenting a little bit. And then finally, there is also an acceleration program in the New European Bauhaus. And that is why I also wanted to tell you today, because I know that there are a lot of startups also in the room. And I want to just bring to your attention that we have this acceleration program. It's open. Apply now. You can go to if you Google EIT Community Booster, then you will come to the website. Otherwise, you come to me and I will show you where it is. The application is now open. The deadline is 15 December. So if you have a nice idea where you think, hey, this really fits into this new European Bauhaus principle, then please apply to this acceleration program. Okay, I think I want to finish here and start with the first round table. And that is the one around future food in cities, where I have like 3 representatives. So Savinch are from the Paris region, a representative. We have Gaël Le Gaillard from the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, and René Silvestre, who is the founder, what I already said, from La Pépinière. We will start with the presentation. I see Savinch already ready to go. I can invite you on stage. And then I will ask whether we can have the slides also from your presentation. I'm really very happy also to have you here and to let the Paris region also welcome our new hub. So I'm very excited to hear about the activities that you run here around Paris and your view on this topic.
Thank you very much.
In the meantime, we will get your slides ready.
Perfect. So, good morning, everyone. It's a great pleasure to be here with you. I'm just going to put myself this way. Is this okay? Yeah. Do you want me to start or? Okay, I'm just taking this one as well, and okay. So before starting, my name is Sevinch R. Shimo, and I'm the lead expert on food tech at Choose Paris region. I'm going to give you a brief of who we are at the end of the presentation. So a quick brief on Paris region key figures, what we are speaking of. We are 12 million of consumers. We have 50 million of tourists before COVID. We have almost 23,000 of restaurants. So the biggest cafe, hotel, restaurant operators and other catering providers have their headquarters and offices in Paris region. We also have the Rungis International Market, which is the largest wholesale food market in the world for fresh food. So one dominant characteristic of Paris region is the concentration of wholesale activity. So in total, the food industry in Paris region employ 10% of the region total employment. After Paris region profile, I would like to give you some observation for the food industry in general. So we produce, we sell, we pack, we eat, almost in the same way since 50 years. The food industry is late in its digital transformation. Today, this industry is transforming with the arrival of new entrants, new players who have more money to invent the future of food than the food industrial themselves invest in their R&D. So we are talking about transformation all along the value chain. The reason for this transformation is not only technology, but is also demand, needs, change in consumer habits. So today we want transparency, today we want origin, traceability, organic foods. Today we want that the farmers are well paid. Today we want also that the cows are well treated. We want individual, we want nutritional, we want local. We want all delivered in 30 minutes. And we want everything at the same price of the supermarket. So this is possible thanks to technology. So in Paris region, we understand it, and we are focusing on technology and disruptions that is happening all around this value chain. So from robotic to bioentrant, insect farming, alga farming, computer-assisted design, traceability platform, novel protein, dozens of technologies are coming to maturity at the same time, and these technologies assembled together will make the food of tomorrow. So Paris region is rich of many those emblematic and forward-thinking companies, and which make Paris region a good territory and a leading ecosystem for food and ag. So next, indeed, we have the chance in Paris region to have a unique combination of culture, know-how, academic knowledge, R&D expertise. So the food raising ecosystem is backed with a growing network of international renowned investors, which have a very good understanding of the French food market and providing a strong support to our startups. So if we look to the statistic, 80% of the French food tech investment are in Paris region, and recently we're very glad that Paris region government to receive Big ID Ventures, which is a well-known seed investor for alternative proteins that opened up an office here in Paris region. So this was the VC, and last, the business ecosystem is also very strong. We have leading companies in the retail, in the food, and in the food services, and all of them totally open to collaborate with startups. So for the coming years, this local context in Paris region will be enhanced again with a new arrival. So thank you, EIT Food, for opening up your business here in Paris. And thank you to all your team. So yes, my conclusion is Paris region is becoming the place to be for the future of food.
Thank you very much, and indeed, very good to hear that we are welcome here, and I hope we can indeed have addition to the beautiful things you are already doing. So, but we will speak about that later a little bit. I will go to the next presenter, Kael. If you can come to the floor, and hopefully we can also start your presentation. That is the next one, yeah. So I'm also very curious to hear the more wider perspective, more European, I would say, vision of the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, and that is what you hopefully are going to bring to us. So I'm give you the floor.
Do they all work? Do you
They all work.
No, not this one.
And
I'll take yours.
that.
Great. Oh, that's working. Cool. Thank you so much. I'm really delighted to be here. So I lead our work on food design at the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. If you don't know about the foundation, we're working to accelerate the transition to a circular economy. Circular economy, you talked about circularity a little bit. I just wanted to give you a little intro, super fast, on what is the circular economy. It's quite simple. It's the main principles can be summed up in these 3 words. So first, it's about eliminating what we don't need. So eliminating waste, eliminating pollution, single-use plastic, etc. That's the first principle. Second, what we do need, we circulate it as long as possible at its highest value. So we repair it, we resell it, we recycle it. And then the last one is everything we do in that economy regenerates natural systems. So it's a much bigger idea than a waste agenda. It's about doing all of this by design, thinking at the design stage how we're going to build products and systems that are respecting these principles. And why is it that important? Well, you know, we've been talking a lot, especially, I'm just coming back from COP last week. There's a lot of talk about greenhouse gas emissions and how we can limit them and decrease them. And we talk a lot about the energy transition, and it's well underway and it's very important. But 45% of these greenhouse gas emissions come from the way we make and use things. So if we only look at energy, we're only looking at part of the picture. The circular economy is tackling this 45%, this other part of the picture. And a big part, actually, of this 45% comes from food. Food is a vital topic. I don't know if you know Johan Rockström. He's a scientist behind the planetary boundaries. And I was listening to a panel last week at COP where he was saying that if we fail on food, we won't reach our climate targets. And he's right. But what that also means, if you flip it, is that food can and needs to be a huge part of the solution. And that's what I want to focus on today, is about solutions. So let me take you on a little trip to 2030. So we're stepping into a supermarket, it's quite late, I'm hungry, I'm coming back from work. I go straight to the most important aisle, I mean, we're in France, the cheese aisle, obviously. And I pick up this cheese, and it's called Silvo, and I read what's happening behind. And you can see it's a cheese that is, it's a line of cheeses made from dairy and walnut milks. And what's special about them is the cows, they come from farms called silvopastures. Silvopasture is where the cows graze around the walnut trees, fertilizing the soil, and the trees in turn provide shade, shelter, and sequester carbon. So farmers that produce Silvo don't rely on the price of milk alone, of dairy milk. They have diversified their income. And at the same time, farms like these could see their greenhouse gas emission decrease by up to 90%. So I'm convinced, put the cheese in my basket, and I move on to the breakfast aisle. In the breakfast aisle, I see Climate Crunch. And what's special about Climate Crunch is that it's a line of cereals that is made of a blend of wheat and peas that are mixed in the same proportion that they are grown in the field. So if you, yes. So today we're doing what's on the left-hand side. If instead of doing the monocrops like you see here, you intercrop wheat and peas, so next to each other, wheat and peas, the peas fix the nitrogen in the soil that then nourishes the wheat, and then you lower the need for synthetic input. And what happens is that you get 50% decrease in biodiversity loss in farms that do this, and a 50% increase in the amount of food you get from the land. At the same time, the farm increases its resilience to climate shocks because of the diversity of crops that grow there. And then as I want to leave the supermarket, I'm not leaving without something sweet. And it's called Sweet Up. It's a line of cookies that are made entirely from ingredients that otherwise would have been wasted. And it's called upcycling. So the flour from these cookies are made from cocoa fruit. No, they are made from coffee cherry. Coffee cherry is a part of the coffee fruit that we usually discard, leave on the field, and let it to rot, and it produces a lot of methane. But we can produce flour from it. And it's sweetened with cocoa fruit pulp, which is also part of the cocoa fruit that is usually discarded. And upcycling is quite wonderful. It's one of my favorite opportunities, if you think about it, because you have all these inputs that you put into growing the food in the first place, like water, human labor, soil. And if we end up throwing away half of the crop, we're losing so much value. If you're using, instead of throwing it away, if you're using that crop to produce food, you're doubling the value of these inputs in the first place. So what all these products have in common is that they were designed around what nature needs to thrive. That means the ecosystems, the local ecosystems, and the interdependence of ingredients were taken into account in the choice of ingredients. And because the ingredients that are going into these products are diverse, they have a lower impact, some of them are upcycled, and all of them are regeneratively produced, these products can tackle climate change, and they can build biodiversity. So, and this is circular design for food. And it has the power to move the food system from being responsible for a third of greenhouse gas emission today to being nature positive, to regenerating more than it degrades. And how come it is that powerful? It's actually quite simple, because if you think about it, farmers work to meet the supply demand created by the food brands. So today, we see, like 40% of what we eat comes from, 60% of what we eat comes from 4 crops today. 4 crops out of the hundreds of thousands of available edible crops we're choosing 4. And what that signals to the farmer is that that's where the demand is. They only they work to meet the supply demand. So if the demand is 4 crops, that's what they're going to grow. So we need to switch to that, and that's why quite often in France, when I took the train, you realize how it's just like large fields of monoculture. It's like looks like grids. A regenerative landscape would look a lot more like on the right-hand side of that picture. So you would have a lot more diversity of crops. You would have cattle that might graze on the remaining grass after the harvest. You might have mustard that is planted as a cover crop to protect the soil. So it's a lot more diversity. And if you really want to feel the benefits of these practices, I would really encourage you to go and touch the soil in these different fields. The soil here is going to feel quite friable. It's going to be gray. It's not going to smell like much. The soil here, it's dark, it's humid, has worms wiggling out of it. It smells a bit like the forest in autumn. It's alive, and you can hear here it's quite silent. Here it's buzzing with birds, with insects, with animals, and that's where we want to go. This is the landscape we want to see happening, and this is the landscape that we need. So how do we get there? So if we want that farm to be profitable, we need to create the demand for all these different ingredients that are coming out of these farms. And that's where a lot of companies today, they focus on sourcing their current ingredients better. But that's not going to be enough. They need to create products with a much wider mix of ingredients. And that's why we're saying essentially that rather than bending nature to produce food, food can be designed for nature to thrive. So innovators like you in the food system, people that are in these companies working as in the marketing teams, in the product development teams, they have the power to really design their food products for nature to thrive. And not only it is possible, the good news is that it can scale massively and very fast. Because what we've seen is only in the EU and the UK alone, the top 10 leading food businesses influence about 40% of the agricultural land. So if they harness circular design for food, they have the power to quite quickly flood our supermarkets with incredibly diverse and incredibly rich products that are going to bring us to where we want to be. And, you know, consumers want it. We all want it. We're hungry to be given more nature-friendly choices. And the economics also work for farmers, because they're going to, after a transition period, where they need a lot of support from companies, from governments, from policymakers. But after that, they will increase their profits. They will diversify their income because they're going to have a lot more ingredients to sell. They will increase the resilience of their farm to the climate shocks that are coming more and more often. And they will also increase the amount of food produced on their land. And if there are, I don't know if there are policymakers in the room, but if there are policymakers in the room, you also have quite a huge role to play. Because today the incentives are stacked against that vision. The incentives today are supporting conventional practices mostly. So we need to switch to a system where regenerative outcomes are rewarded, where farmers are supported financially, technologically, through knowledge sharing, and where research and innovation is harnessed to create new market opportunities. And governments and countries collaborate to create a global push for change. And I think what's really important to understand is that circular design for food it's not an add-on. It will help your businesses and your governments to reach their climate targets. It permeates well beyond the food system. So think for a minute. What if your breakfast could build biodiversity? What if the lunch you're going to have later could tackle climate change? What if companies could design products for nature to thrive, for soil to be replenished, for air and water quality to be improved? If we want this to be true, we need to change the way we look at the food system and switch from trying to do a bit less bad to realize that the power it has to be a positive force for regeneration. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Gaël, to share, I would say, this dream. And I think we all recognize and can live with this dream. I mean, if we can indeed go to such a future, it would be beautiful. But I also immediately in my head, I see all this, what is it, blockades that are still there before we are going there. So I hope that indeed also today we can already start to remove some of the barriers that are there. And I also saw, of course, already some big industry and corporate partners in the room where I was also very curious to see how they would feel about your story, but we can maybe do that also during the breaks and ask them if they want to be part of this journey.
It's something important is that we didn't write this report on our own, right? We have a lot of partners from the industry that helped us, so I would doubt they would be very surprised. They've been co-creating it with us.
Of course, so that's really good to hear. Thank you. René, are you here? René Sylvester, you are the next speaker. I would like to invite you on the stage. Yes, come here. Because you are also representative of Paris, I would say, of the Paris citizen. Exactly. So I'm also very curious to hear from your side how you feel about this topic and how you think, for example, Le Cirque and Le Pépinière could be like also an added value to our system.
Is working, yes. In France, sometimes it's not working, this sort of things, you know. So I apologize for my English because I learn English in French school. So that's a problem. And as long as I have 74, it's not time to learn now. But anyway, so this place here is a famous place. And it is a place where the Pépinière I founded 10 years ago. Pépinière incubator is the same thing. I founded the incubator, which is called Pépinière 27. We have in Pépinière 27 140 startups living there, but generous startup, not only food, but summer food. And we decided with the restaurant here to move the Pépinière here to have a place for startup of food who can meet together, we can have contact with professional people, who can do exhibition here, who can sell their products here, even in the card of the restaurant, and is an innovation, I think, because we didn't do things like that, even in other things, not only food. And I think it's it will be, in years, things will develop, because the best place is where the things are going. Before the pépinière, just a word, I create a startup, which is called l'étudiant, for informed students and lycéens about studies and jobs. You probably know that. You probably use that. You are probably very, very glad to use that, but you will tell me that after. So I create l'étudiant. It was a startup. It was in 1970, something like that. A few years ago, I created l'étudiant startup, but at the time, you didn't have startup. It was not something, and it was quite difficult because no head, no money, nothing. You have to do that yourself, and it has been a great adventure, l'étudiant. Very nice. And after l'étudiant, I decided to create Pépinière to transmit what I have done and also what I have failed to startups now. So, what you want?
No, thank you very much. I mean, I think indeed your final point, indeed saying like, what is it, 20, 30, 40 years ago, being a startup is not comparable to being a startup today. Eh? You have no idea how luxury position you are, indeed, with all the support that you get.
Yes, luxury position.
Yeah,
I think
luxury.
so. Not always, actually, not always, because when you start, if you succeed, it's good to succeed by yourself, but most times, sometimes, it's difficult and you don't succeed. That's your role, that's your purpose, that's our purpose in the Pépinière. But l'étudiant was a school for me, a good school. And when you have to school, after school, you have to teach the other of everything you have done well and not well.
And therefore, I'm also happy to have you here as more as a mentor also for the startups that are here, because they can really learn a lot from you. And I'm also happy that you indeed find the idea that you say, okay, we need a place where they can also experiment and come together and talk to each other and learn from each other, and that this is indeed a place to go for them. So I'm really very thankful for that and to be here also. So I would like to still have you on the floor here and also invite the other ladies back. Gaël, maybe we can sit around this table. Yeah, maybe one, because then it's more practical since we are with three. So if I will put my pieces here and you can put your pieces there, because then I just would like to have a little conversation with you after hearing all three of your stories. And the first thing that I would like to discuss is, we talked a little bit about the challenges, right, that we are facing currently in the food system, in the food system in cities, more specifically. And I was wondering if you look, because EIT Food is of course about Europe, about the wider picture, but is it comparable to the French region? So can you almost one-on-one copy the challenges that we see in Europe-wide? Can you almost one-on-one copy them to Paris? And then I actually look to you, both of you, as you are the Paris representatives. But is that true? Do you recognize the food challenges that are more globally or European-wide? Is that in Paris the case, or do you also say no, but in Paris or in France we have more specific challenges around food? You go first, Javic, yeah? No, you can start talking. They all work.
Okay.
They should all work, yeah.
So before starting my presentation, I introduce you a bit the profile of Paris region in terms of production and what we are, what we do, and how we consume. And I ended this profile with telling that wholesale activity is very much concentrated here in Paris region. So in Paris region, we are aware about sovereignty of food in France. I mean, this is something that we are talking a lot with politicians. And we have initiatives as a Paris region government about, in English, I don't know how you say it, circuit court, urban farming, and also the short circuit.
Yeah, exactly, short supply chain.
So
short supply chain.
whenever we can, and whenever we can make it, so urban farming will be done here in Paris region, but still it's not, for me, representative enough. I mean, we have currently 73 hectares of urban farming here in Paris region. And second, as a Paris region government, we have in charge, I don't know in English how you say it, the lycée. And we make sure that in our lycée, we provide bio and short circuit food.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So, but as I said, I mean, due to our profile, we also in phase to the food tech challenge that we have, and we have the luck to have nice universities, R&D ecosystem, and as a Paris region, what we currently try to do is to promote this ecosystem and to make sure that the R&D, the innovation will be done here.
Yeah. Thank you, René. Or Gaël, yeah. But
So France is not my expertise.
Yes, no,
But
exactly.
the data that we crunch for the report were Europe, EU, and the UK. But if I can, I can say like in the data we can see France produces a lot of the food in Europe, and so you have the production on one side, and then the consumers extremely aware and engaged into these topics. So that makes France a very important market, and we can see also a lot of farms. French farmers are leading the way towards regenerative agriculture, which is what I talked about.
yeah. Okay, and indeed, do you recognize that the consumers indeed also, for example, in this restaurant, that it comes from the market, that from the consumer side, that they say, I want to have regenerative food, or I want to have no waste food, or do you recognize that, or?
My problem about that is not... I think my problem is that in France, in Paris also, you have at the moment millions of people going to bank of food. And it lasts for a long time. And it's not solved, this problem. And that's bad for me. And on the other side, you have people who normally, and it's good to do that, they ask what I am going to eat tonight. What I am going. They have to choose. And most of them, they say, for my health, and they are on the right side. I don't critique that. But most of them say, I eat bio, I eat vegan, I eat no fish, no meat, no cassoulet, no things like that, you know. They say that. And it's the opposite of these two people. Two kinds of people who interpel me, who ask me. And I think it's a problem. Of course, it's also a problem of having court circuit. I know that, because my parents used to do a job which was to send vegetables and fruits in Paris. You know, we call that expéditeur in France, but I know this problem. I'm sure we have to do that. We have to do in this way, but we don't forget bank of food. Don't forget, because it's not going down, it's going up.
Exactly.
That's a problem of
and that's
food.
Another challenge, indeed.
A challenge. That's a challenge. It's still a challenge.
Yeah.
We are in the habit of that. We are in the habit, so we don't think of that.
Yeah. And they don't
politics
have a choice, right? I mean, you cannot go to the food bank saying like, oh, by the way, I want bio food and is this vegetarian? I know those people are happy to have food and to receive food, and they will take all the food that they get. So no, and I think it's indeed, it's a good point and a good challenge indeed. So I would add that to the list of challenges indeed. That
It's not the same challenge. It's not the same,
no.
but it is a challenge.
It is, yeah.
We don't have to forget that. We don't have to forget. Maybe if we try to do best with farm, with health products, is different problem, but is on the side.
Yeah, no, I'm fully with you. And I see, Kael, you are already taking notes. Do you want to respond to
Yeah,
it?
of course.
Or?
I mean, that's this one. All right. It's an important challenge, affordability, and I appreciate that you're bringing it up. What I don't want is people to think that it's because it's good for the planet is going to be more expensive. It's the case today because it's free to pollute, and we don't pay the true cost of food. So as long as it's going to be free to pollute, you're going to have to choose between what you can afford and what's good for the planet. So we need to change the whole system. We need to change the incentives so that because we're going to pay the price of this. We're already paying the price of this. We can't continue, like that's the soil are degenerating so much that we will not be able to continue producing food in the way that we do today. So we need to change the incentive systems to make it affordable so that the farmers and the consumers can afford good food that is good for them and the planet. But yeah, I would really want to decouple this affordability and what is good for the planet.
Savic, anything you want to add, or otherwise we...
Well, I think there is two subjects. There is inclusivity, so to make sure that all these people have something to eat, and this is something that we are working on in Paris region. I mean, 12 million inhabitants. We can have two speed people living in this territory is not possible. And the second thematic is circular economy of the food. And this is something that is in the heart of Paris region strategy as well. So we are trying to handle it, but everything is not perfect yet. We are working on it.
No, I hope. No, and that's maybe a good bridge to the next point, because I would love also to talk about which stakeholders indeed do we need to involve. Because of course we can look at the government, local government, saying, or Paris region, like, yeah, hey, you need to solve this problem. These people are living in poverty, who need food. But also on the other hand, we need to have the circular systems in Paris. So please, here you have all of our problems and please solve it. But I mean, it's not, of course, something for you only to solve. It's something from all of us, and we are all like stakeholders in solving this problem. So who do you think are key stakeholders, and how can we, bring them all together and make sure that they are all, included in maybe the co-creation of this new system, and how can we do it? So who are they, and how can we bring them together?
Well, I can start. I mean, of course, governments need to be in. They need to put in place the right policies and incentives. But I agree that they can't do it on their own. So the private sector needs to be in, and that's why our report is aimed at what we call FMCG, so fast-moving consumer goods, so food brands and retailers. They have a huge influence on the farming landscapes through their supply chain, and they should be in, and that's what we're proposing. This solution is saying if you use circular design for food, you can have an extremely positive impact. So governments and private sector. At the foundation, we're really passionate about this idea that consumers should not have to bear the weight of the change of the system. So, you should go to a supermarket and be able to only have good options. No bad options is like, so we work with the systems, we work with the private actors, we work with the public actors, because that's where the change needs to be, rather than putting all the weight on consumers.
Yeah, and you also feel that they want to, because you say we involve all the stakeholders, and they are all indeed open to indeed connect with you and to work with you together. And okay, so that is really positive then. That's very good to hear. Do you recognize that, Savic?
Completely. I'm going to do the same, but different. So consumer habits have to change. And as a policymaker, because I'm working for the Paris region government, yeah, I mean, fortunately we have policies, and through policies we can push the private sector to adopt these new technologies and changing habits and new way of consuming, new way of producing, etc., etc. And through the government policy, what we try to make also currently at the metropole of the Greater Paris metropolis, we have what we call the Circular Economy Week. So this is a platform where we train all the municipalities to make sure that they are socially, environmentally responsible in all their public procurement. So in this way, I mean, we try to make some changes, and this is starting slowly, but hopefully it's going to be done.
Good, very good. Do you recognize it, for example, also with the startups? Is that a closed environment, or do you also try to connect them with these other stakeholders and make sure that they are not doing the work all alone?
In food, what you say, just an answer. I notice, as you do, that in supermarket, for instance, they do progress to have products coming from not far, etc. But I have something is we have to do is to teach people, and most of all the young people, when the fruit and vegetable grows. Because one of the problems is not a good, big problem, but it is a problem. If you go in a grocer here, if you search in the street, you will see melons, for instance. Melons. And people, they didn't know when melons grow. So they buy melons, sometimes very expensive, but also they don't respect the normal way of nature. And as I am from south of France, when I see melons here, you know, I say, what's that? And it's for melon, it's for tomatoes, it's for everything, everything. It's a problem of education. It's a big problem, but it's not difficult, but it's a big problem. To teach to the children, look, that's a melon, you have to buy melon when you have melons. And when people project melon, they are completely perdu because you have melon coming from everywhere and so on. So that's a problem.
Yeah, and I think that's a great example, thank you, of actually the melon should not be in the store. That was my point, is that it shouldn't be purchased, it shouldn't be produced at that time of the year if it's not possible to produce it. And therefore the choice, that the responsibility should not be, I mean, it's important that we all know when things grow, but also why is it in the store in the first place is an important question we need to ask.
Yeah, and probably, of course, you will always have the consumers who will say, yeah, but I want a melon now because I have dinner and I had melon for dessert. But indeed, what you say, most of the people don't think about it and they just see what is in the store and then they buy.
Only to put in the store an information. You know, melons are on the side and tomatoes are on the side because it's not the season.
Not the season.
Just that. To know. It's not compulsory, but it's to know that it is not the time.
Yeah.
Because people know that if you wear something, it's season. So it's to eat, it's the same. And in supermarkets, they have to do that. They don't do that. Actually, I don't think they do that to explain that this fruit, this vegetable is not growing at that moment. In France, I mean, in France, because sometimes it's coming from Peru or...
Yeah. Exactly, good. Thanks. I will just look at the time, but we are good. We are safe for maybe a final point, because it's then also about, okay, how can we make it happen again? I mean, it's always good to talk, and I think you all in the audience also recognize, the challenges and also maybe solutions that we're talking about. But how can you really make it happen? Of course, that's why we are here, because we believe that maybe this type of events and also the programs, the fan program, for example, supporting startups can indeed make it happen. Yeah, I think your story was, of course, also, it really showed more or less a roadmap also of how you can do that. So maybe to start with you, indeed, do you, with this roadmap, do you already have like next steps, next plans to how can we make it happen?
Yeah, we're really trying to work closely with businesses. We're not just saying like, hey, you guys, you should do that. We're really trying to work closely with them to implement it. And there's like, 5 big actions that we're trying to push. And I think we're talking a lot to big businesses, but innovators and startups can apply the same thing to their portfolios and saying, you know, look at your portfolio of food products that you're producing and say, what are the ingredients that have the biggest impact? And how can I, you know, diversify them, exchange them for ingredients that have a lower impact? Can I use upcycled ingredients? Do I produce waste? How can I take that away? So have a holistic view at your product portfolio. Then try to connect with your suppliers, so the farmers, and create new collaborative dynamics. So can you do like new buying models, saying, I'm going to buy everything that comes out of your farm instead of just buying the wheat, for example, and then you try to, with the designers in your team, try to figure out what other products you could do with all these other ingredients. You can have longer contract terms to help them transition to better practices. And also something that I would love to see coming out from here is what we call iconic products. So I've shown you the products of the future. We can make them happen now, and you can design those products, and I would love to see them before 2030. So creating products that would, especially coming from smaller businesses, that would show the big businesses, see this is possible and people want it. You would have the proof of concept with that. Then they can transform into a proof of scale. And then that's a bit more technical, but like we need metrics and definition on how we measure greenhouse gas emissions on the farm, how we measure biodiversity loss or biodiversity gain, etc. But I won't go into that.
Thank you. Savij, of course, you talked already about the policies that you are implementing. So any other, and also the financial, measures that you have. So any other ways how you want to make it happen in the Paris region?
Yeah, maybe something else, because I didn't introduce Choose Paris region. So we are the Economic Development Agency, and our job is to promote clean technology, food technologies here in Paris region. And we do provide to all international players all the resources that they need to accelerate their business in France. So if they are looking for R&D laboratories or university, so we are here also to help them to connect with this ecosystem here in Paris region. After, Paris region government for innovations also have financial support, but dedicated to innovations mainly. Mm-hmm. So this is something that we can help and connect as well. But the state government also have such kind of financial support for innovative implementation.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's it.
Great. Thank you. René, do you want to add something or no? No. Doesn't matter.
No. I think that the challenge is very, very important. A lot of things are done, have been done, and are done. But for myself, I think that startups in the food, for instance, they can have something to do in that, of course. Why? Because they want to change the world. Every startup, the aim is to change the world. So they will able to help to change the world. So please help them as you do, so they will change our world.
That is a very nice way to close, and I feel the pressure now also on the startups who are here in the room. But we are indeed here to help you and make it happen together with you. I think there's even time for 1 or 2 questions from the audience. I'm not sure whether there is a question, but if you want to take this opportunity for these 3 guests before I send them back to the place, then there is room. Yeah, do you want to? I will give you a microphone.
Yeah, thank you so much. That's a wonderful presentation, and it's an honor to be here. My name is Newton. I'm from Nairobi, Kenya. but currently in Paris, internationalizing my startup. So this is a great opportunity to understand the ecosystem. I work with smallholder farmers producing French beans, and you brought in a very interesting concept of wheat and beans, because the beans is a nitrogen fixer. Now, being in the import ecosystem where we bring food into the EU, there's obviously a carbon footprint with the transport. Now, how do we, like, for example, justify the carbon footprint that we're bringing in by ensuring all the food we produce is consumed in the EU? And then also, when it comes to incubation in the Paris region, Rungis is the biggest market, right, in the whole world. The import sector, the EU imports a lot of produce, particularly from Africa. Still, again, on the same line, how do we ensure that there is sustainability and continuity in the inclusive business, whereby big players in this market are able to collaborate with smallholder farmers from the producer areas, such that in as much as we are unable to eliminate fully the carbon footprint of the transport system, it is justifiable by having all the food being consumed. Otherwise, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Actually, a lot of questions and also difficult questions, I would say, or difficult challenges again. I mean, if we can solve them today, that would be great. But anyone, Gael, you would like to respond to that?
So just to make sure, because it's really interesting, but I want to make sure I really understood. So how do we justify the carbon footprint of importing food? Is that your question? Yeah. That's interesting. I think what's... Ideally, we would consume local food. A lot of countries are also relying on exporting their food, and we can't just from one day to another stop that. What's really important is that we work on trade agreements and like having the equal standards, so like that we help European farmers to move to a regenerative agriculture and produce more pulses and peas and green beans, and then at the same time we help farmers in other regions to do the same, so that we can have trade agreements where we know that the green beans we're bringing in when we need them are also produced in ways that are regenerative. And I think it's very important to understand that what is regenerative in one context is not going to be in another. The practices are very localized. So for example, just in the EU, when we were modeling wheat and peas, if it's in England, wheat and oat is actually a more interesting combination. So in every country, every region is going to look different. But yeah, this idea of making sure the trade agreements make it fair for farmers here and farmers in the other regions, and making sure that every food that we're bringing in or that we're eating comes from has been produced with practices that are regenerative.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, then I would thank you again for your contribution. Very, very interesting. Of course, we are not going to lose you because you will be around today and also during the lunch break. So if anyone wants to grab you, then of course you will be here. So thank you again, and yeah, hope to be engaged with all of you to indeed make sure we make it happen here in Paris. Thank you. Then we move to the second roundtable, and that is about our stakeholder network here around the Food Acceleration Network. So I'm going to ask a lot of speakers on the stage, or the key stakeholders, and then we will, they will be seated here, and we will ask them all to give their, opinion of why it's good that we are here today, and why the hub should be open today here in Paris. So I want to start with Kevin. I saw that Kevin was already networking a lot, so he was not paying attention too much to... Oh, well, yeah, there he is. Good. Kevin Kamphuis. He is the founder of Shake Up Factory. I already announced it a little bit in the beginning. They will help EIT Food to implement the FAN program here in Paris. So I'm happy to have Kevin on board. Then the next one is Artem Glebnikov. He is the Director of Strategic Partnerships at Danone. And one of the people that I actually already wanted to ask you a question when we had the previous discussion, but maybe you can add to that also from Danone's point of view. when you're here. Then we have Sonja Huppert. She is the Global Innovation Marketing Leader of IFF in France. Also, welcome to you. And we have Simon Mackling. I didn't, by the way, see him, but oh yes, you are here. Very good. Also, welcome to the stage. Simon is the Global Project Manager at Bayer Crop Science, based in France. Also happy to have you here. And Frédéric Bouvier, I saw you there, yeah. He is from the Open Innovation at Roquette. So we have quite some corporate partners here at the stage. And then, of course, if we're talking about key stakeholders, we cannot go without some startups. So I would also love to ask Daniel Becker from Linolat to the stage. And Maxime Roper, you will have a presentation later on, but maybe you can stay seated for now. I'm not sure where you are. Maxime. Oh, there. Yes, hi. If you can stay there for just a minute, because she will have a little bit more of a keynote speech later on, but I will start first with the pitches here. So you can take a seat if you want. You can also stand behind the seat. I don't mind, but maybe it's more cozy if you take a seat. We have some microphones also to distribute. I don't know what for me is the best place to see, because I don't know. I will probably walk around a little bit. Anyway, first I would like to ask all of you just a 5-minute speech pitch as a key stakeholder, why you think it's a nice opportunity for us now to be here in France and have this opening of the hub. Yeah, you what is it?
Well, Kevin has pointed at me.
Okay,
so
good. Artem, then you can start.
Well, I'll do the icebreaker story here, and I think it's, first of all, it's great to see all of you around, and I think the first part was projecting the future, but the second part is not just about the past either, because I think what we're celebrating today is a very important piece. EIT Food is the organization which is set up to change the way we're interact with our food system, right? So we have to do it. And FAN is one of the instruments which is bringing together different players. And I think this is one of the important things we've learned in the interactions with different ecosystems around the world, is you need to have this biodiversity. Like in the Gail's presentation, there is a biodiversity of different players. And that's what's happening today here in Paris. Like it's happened in many places before. We need to bring together all these biodiversity of players, big and small, private and public, entrepreneurs, VCs, government agencies, big companies, in order to move it. The second important thing, and that's why I think EIT is instrumental here again, we need a place. We need a place that serendipity happened, like a place here today, or another one. Otherwise, all these players wouldn't have a possibility to interact. So that's why I think celebration again, and the idea here is to bring all these players in the one place to move the agenda. And the third one is about people. We have probably the right people in the Paris region, like in the others, to move and make food local, because this is what's going to be happening. We cannot just have one solution coming from elsewhere. Like, my life was easy a few years back. I would go to Silicon Valley in Israel, I'll see what is happening there, and just bring it back. No, I think this also evolved, and the way it needs to happen in every places, and that's why, again, thanks for a lot of people who worked on the opening of the FAN, and that's what I think we're going to bring together, and I'll let other people probably to bring other positions.
So who wants to go next? Yeah, Sonja, ladies first.
Do you hear me? Yeah, ça marche? Okay. So, my name is Sonja Huppert, and I'm based in France, in Paris, and I'm in charge of global innovation marketing for IFF, handling alternative protein, so definitively a very important impact segment in all the food transition and what needs basically to happen. And I will talk a little about IFF so you know better who we are and why we are here and participating to EIT Food, in fact, today. So IFF, you may know this company through the flavor and colors, I could say, products that are definitively part of the company. And through the merge with DuPont Nutrition and Bioscience this year, the portfolio of products had expanded through products like cultures, probiotics, enzyme, as well as plant protein, texturant, and different other basically ingredients. But it's not only about ingredients, it's also about the expertise that the company is having in ingredient as well as interaction in between ingredients as well as in the food, in fact, matrix, which is clearly extremely, in fact, important for the development of new products. And this is through deep knowledge that our team is having, as well as the equipment and the pilot facilities that we're having, and that could help build quicker, I will say, new products. So why joining EIT Food and why I'm here, in fact, today? Of course, in fact, this food transition is extremely important. We do have a lot internally, but we strongly believe that to act now and very quickly, we really need to partner across, in fact, the value chain to be able to change things as quickly as possible. And the other element I would like to bring is the fact that through what I describe in our portfolio and capabilities, we do have the opportunity to work with startups at early stage and to help them develop quickly, in fact, product, which could be by providing, I could say, ingredients or basically knowledge, or also working with them in our basically facilities. But it's very important to have this in mind, that in fact we could, as a company, really connect and help building quickly new product and avoid, I could say, decrease also the risk for, in fact, the newcomers. And again, I'm really happy, in fact, to be here, in fact, with all of you, in fact, today in Paris. So thanks a lot for the invitation, and I will turn to one of the other persons.
Frederic, I was interrupting you, so you can go ahead.
Yeah. So good morning, everyone. My name is Frédéric Bouvier. I am working for Roquette in the Open Innovation department at Roquette. At Roquette, we have a passion for food, and we believe that nature is an answer to bring better food to the consumer and to help the consumer to get the food they need and they want. And we are producing plant-based proteins and fibers, as you know, but I would say generally plant-based ingredients, not only proteins and fibers. And as a leader in this area, we think that we must contribute to the development of this area for two main reasons, two first reasons. The first one is to be a good citizen, and the second one is because it's simply our interest. What does that mean, to be a good citizen? I mean, it means that, as you know, increasing the plant-based part in the food diet helps the consumer to get a better health. So helping the consumer to get more and more diversified food should help the consumer to get a better health also. And also developing plant-based foods is good for the planet. So these are the two reasons why we want to be a good citizen. The other reason is that it's our interest. Why? It's because some of the startups which are here and which will grow in this ecosystem will be our customers tomorrow. So, of course, obviously, it's our interest to help them to grow and to support them, particularly the ones who will be our customers tomorrow. So these are the first two reasons why we are here today. I have to say that as founding member of EIT Food and and core partner of EIT Food. We have been involved so far more in innovation activities and particularly innovation projects, and we are still part of innovation projects, but we started to think that to get advantage of this fantastic network of EIT Food, we should get closer to other activities like public engagement activities, but also business development activities. There are two reasons why we are here today. The first one is that when you want to get involved and to contribute to incubation, it's not an easy task, but it's even more difficult when you are far from your headquarters. And Roquette is headquartered in the north of France. So when you have the opportunity to support business development close to your headquarters, it would be a shame not to contribute to this activity. And the second one is that French government is strongly supporting plant-based foods, I would say, but not only plant-based food, but the whole chain, the whole supply chain and the whole value chain. So we want to bring our stone to this movement, and we want to contribute to helping developing this area, and that are the reasons, the main reasons why we are here.
Yeah, very nice. Thank you.
These are the good reasons why we are here.
Exactly. Simon, yeah, can I give you the floor as the fourth?
Yes, of course. Thank you. So, hello everyone. My name's Simon Maechling. I work for Bayer Crop Science. I'm based in Lyon. I work as an innovation manager, so my role is really to identify new technologies and put in place partnerships. I work at a global level. I'm lucky enough to be in France. When I heard from Kevin and the EIT team there was going to be a hub opened here in France, I mean, I was very excited. We had some great comments already from Roquette. The anecdote I want to tell you is a little story. So my boss sits in Germany. And I have a reputation inside of Bayer Crop Science for continuing to bring high-quality French startups to the Germans for partnerships. I've worked very hard to get this reputation at Bayer, and I want to continue working very hard to maintain this reputation in my company. So the opportunity to have a hub here in Paris, just up the road from us in Lyon, is for me absolutely fantastic. It's the cherry on the cake. We have a lot of things in common as well. So at Bayer Crop Science, we have a very strong R&D presence in Lyon. We have a research centre. And then we also have a very strong innovation or open innovation presence in Lyon as well. We have a small accelerator. We have a lot of activities going on around open innovation. And the other thing that we also try and do a lot after the innovation is we need to have innovation in food. We need to have innovation in ag. This is a given. The other thing that we need to do, we need to explain to customers, to consumers, to friends, to colleagues, to family, why innovation in ag is important. And that's a fundamental thing, principles that we share together. And so I'm very excited to be here today, and thank you for the invitation.
Thank you also very much for being here. Kevin, I think I give you then the floor next before we go to the final one, the startup.
So the reason why I'm super happy, I will start with an anecdote. 5 years ago, when I started Shaker Factory, we had the chance to organize what was the first ever global food tech challenge in a conference in San Francisco that was named Future Food Tech, in fact. And as Artem was saying, we had to go to San Francisco to see that the future of food would be happening. And coming back from San Francisco, since then, what wakes me up in the morning is that there is no reason it should happen in San Francisco. And in fact, if you compare, I would say France, because let's be quite chauvinistic today, but if we compare France with San Francisco, and why does it work in San Francisco? As it works also in Tel Aviv. You have San Francisco, this is where the food is grown. So it starts with ag, what we have in France. France has the largest variety of food that you can ever grow. Any kind of fruits and vegetables, any kind of cereals, any kind of meat, and also any kind of fish. We have the largest variety of food, and this is a given that is also cultural and a strength that we really are very proud of, but which has helped build what is the second element of our ecosystem and which also makes us very, I would say, competitive to San Francisco. We have a very strong network of companies, corporates that know what is food and that know how to make food. And you see here companies that are French companies that are leader at a worldwide level, not only in making and transforming food, not only in growing food for ag, but also in retail. We have a variety of retailers in France that is just amazing, and with a lot of worldwide leaders. The third element is that San Francisco is known for the Silicon Valley. We are about to open our own Silicon Valley in Paris-Saclay, and we have an intelligence and a collective intelligence and education in France, and on food and around food that is just amazing, and I would say even underrated yet. And it was surprising that at that time when I was in San Francisco, many of the most advanced startups dealing with food were hiring French guys. The only thing that we were missing at that time was the money. And now I think that we have it, and it took us quite some time to get it, but beyond the fact that BPI is very strong to help food, we also have a growing number of investors that have turned their head back to France and look at what's happening there. Then if you see those four elements, what was missing? And this is a point that really is important. French guys used to be too chauvinistic, and they don't look beyond their frontiers. And Europe used to be, and still to some element, is still a compilation of countries, regulations, cultures, and this is where EIT Food was the missing piece to me to what was needed to make the future of food happen in France, which is opening opportunities, opening the mindset, providing to entrepreneurs the capability to understand that they can go beyond just their normal frontiers and look and connect with, and easily connect with opportunities of development, of funding, of collaboration that until yet were very difficult to access, because we have to be honest with one thing. Food is one of the most difficult business that I know. A most difficult business. So we need to help entrepreneurs. And this is why we are so happy to have EIT coming to consolidate I would say, the set of capabilities that were needed to make the future of food happen in Europe. Because this is the last part. There is something around, I would say, sovereignty that we need also to be proud of, and that we need to consolidate, and working all together will make it much more efficient.
Thank you, Kevin. And then, of course, Daniel, because we were talking a lot about you or about startups, so now I'm really also happy to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, well, thank you. It's a great pleasure and honor to be here. Thank you very much. It's been a long time I haven't spoken English as well with COVID, so the level is not as where it used to be. Anyway, Daniel, I'm the founder of Linolat. We produce premium vegan chocolate for B2B, mainly for chefs, for pastry chefs and chocolate, with cocoa butter and upcycling defatted nuts and grains. So, yeah. We can talk about it later. I joined EIT in the Lausanne program in 2019. It was quite in the middle, I would say, of the adventure. We'll celebrate 5 years on December. It was a great opportunity for me, especially to get out of my chocolate bubble and meet the network. I was trained as a chef de cuisine. Even not as a food engineer, so like all the industrial part was very far from me. And meeting corporates at the time, it was Barry Callebaut and Nestle, for example, which were exactly the same core business as I was, gave me the opportunity to better understand where I am, where can I go, and what are my difficulties as a startup, but what also are my opportunities. So the whole EIT experience was for me mainly about mind opening, networking, and I think today with time as we grow, it's also a great tool of support and of knowledge. So it's great to be a part of it, and I'm very, very happy to know that the hub is opening in France because first of all, it's evident. I mean, France is the capital of gastronomy. I think it's important because when we talk about moving to plant-based diet, for example, I think the first barrier of all is flavor and texture and experience. And I think here in France we have this amazing culture of gastronomy. I'm from Israel. I was born and raised and came here because I admired so much the French gastronomy. Today I'm more inspired about how to take these beautiful creations and make them more sustainable. On my part, in the pastry, but other people do a great job, and I think it's very important that there's a great potential to develop great products in France, as also because the agriculture is here, but also the know-how and the transformation, and be here in Paris, surrounded by the best chefs of the world, which are really in great numbers. I think it's a great opportunity, and will be closer, so great to take part. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Of course, I mean, you said a lot of things, and I would really love to speak a little bit more and deeper with you. But first, we will go to presentation. Maxime, you are ready. I hope the technology is also ready for your video, because I think you first wanted to start with a video impression before we go to the more the roundtable discussion. So if you can stay, I mean, that's fine. You can stay on your seat. It will be about 10 minutes, I think. So. Is it okay that we can start the video? Okay, good, because then again, very nice to hear the chauvinistic France, what is it? I would like to challenge you a little bit about that, but here's the video.
Over the past few years, there have been a lot of scandals in the food industry. Consumers today no longer trust the food that they are buying. Hi, I'm Maxine. I am the co-founder of Connecting Food.
I'm Stefano. I'm the co-founder of Connecting Food.
Connecting Food is an EIT Rising Food Star, and we are fighting for the future of food, making it more transparent.
Today there is a kind of war between the consumer and the production.
Many food producers are actually making concrete efforts to source locally and ethically. But what is missing is a tool to be able to gather all that information and to be able to showcase it to the consumer. When they're shopping for food, consumers can see a QR code on the pack, and using their smartphone they can scan that QR code and access information about the whole food chain. In a packet of biscuits, for example, they can see the whole journey of the wheat. Where does it come from? Where was it grown? But also the journey right through to the manufacturing plant. And all this information is specific for each batch of product. So each time the consumer will scan the product, it will not be the same story. So how do we make it work?
Our technology allows to follow the life of a product from the beginning until the fork of the consumer.
The information exists in the supply chain, such as traceability and audit information, but it was only used in case of problems such as a product recall or an annual audit. What was missing was a module to be applied to link the batches together for real-time traceability and auditing, which is what Connecting Food does.
To create a kind of passport for the product, showing that at each step is in line with promises and with specification.
And then we register the information on a blockchain to make sure that it remains tamper-proof. Since we are applying real-time food audits, we can identify when a product is not compliant in real time and deal with it, which means that instead of throwing that food away, we can actually put it into a different supply chain for which it is compliant. The agri-food industry is changing, manufacturers, processors and producers are getting together to be able to leverage the traceability information and to build stronger relationships with their clients and with the end consumer. Connecting Food is a tool to make that happen. It's a concrete solution to move towards more transparency in food chains.
That was a quick introduction to what we're doing at Connecting Food. I think it's probably nicer to watch a film rather than to listen to me explaining what we've been doing over the last few years. So we are an EIT Rising Food Star since 2019. We're actually, as you can hear from my accent, I'm actually English, but we are a French company. Stefano, the other co-founder, is Italian. We are a very European company. And so EIT was really, it's been a real boost to Connecting Food. Since 2019, we've had a lot of exposure, a lot of accompaniment. The film, as you can see, we filmed it with EIT. So it's a very professional network of extremely high-level people that have been helping us. Obviously in all different countries in Europe, but also opening up doors to journalists, articles, a lot of expertise. We've also been on a lot of events, Future Food in London, in Italy also. And I think it's and a lot of podcasts, general European exposure and a lot of great advice, which has done us a lot of good. 2019 seems a long time ago. Obviously, we've been through the COVID period since then. And also, I think what is great with working with the EIT and this accompaniment, obviously, if you're a startup, you grow very fast. We now are a scale-up company. We're working with a lot of very big CPG companies, a lot of big European upstream producers. And our competition comes from the US, a lot of American big companies like IBM and big tech companies. And EIT has accompanied us through this scale-up as well, the scale-up stage that we're going into now. And also there's the EIT Digital Challenge, which we actually won like a month or 2 months ago, which is great as well. So this is the kind of things going from a startup to a scale-up is there's a lot of things to be doing, a lot of complicated stuff to be dealing with. And the EIT challenge there was 409 deep tech scale-ups from everywhere in Europe. We were lucky to get through the 20 finalists and then through to the 3 top winners, and we actually won the overall #1 prize. So we were really proud of that. And so we're now also, So, and I think the fact that kind of we've been through the system with the EIT has helped us also. And now we're seeing the next stage as well, because we're being accompanied by the EIT teams, not just in terms of as what we saw before, but now it's really in the funding side of things. A great team helping us say, okay, you want to do a Series A fundraising, the company needs to really change. It really is a different step. So we're going through that now with the team, which is, they're really giving us a lot of advice, but also shaking us up, saying you can't carry on talking like a startup. You are a scale up. You need to talk differently. You need to, you don't talk about what you're going to be doing. You now need to be saying, okay, your vision is great, but now you need to be talking about your metrics, all that kind of stuff. And they're helping us say who should we be talking to, because obviously there are huge amounts of, there's a lot of finance out there. Money is not a problem. It's who is in line with your strategy, who is looking at changing the European food supply, and also the way food is going to be in the next 5 years. So we need to be able to have advice on what kind of financing institutions are going to be helping us, because who's going to be sitting on our board is going to be very important to let us get that strategy out there. So EIT is doing that as well, but also in terms of the sales acceleration in different countries, because we're a French company, but we really are international. We're very European because food is international. Food supply chains there aren't any borders in food. We're working with French companies, big upstream cereal producers, but their market is worldwide. And we're working with CPG companies coming from America, but we're working with the French teams, or the contract is signed in an Eastern European country. So it's totally without borders. And I think that's very important as well. Being accompanied is very important, because we can't do everything. We need to concentrate on where we want to be going, and we need people to help us to get there. Finance is one way. How to fuel that, obviously, it's very important. But we need to be also, we're talking to big companies, we're changing a lot of things. And I think it's really important to have the experts in each domain. And that's really what we've been seeing over the last few years with EIT, and the next few years as well, I think. We're really excited to have been part of that. I think we're a proof that it works, and in the future it will work. And if you want to be doing something which is very ambitious in a world which is changing, because we're bringing tech into the food world, we are very much a food tech company. Data is the future, and I think the world has changed over the last few years. COVID has really changed that. Everybody is now scanning, everybody is looking at information, and food companies know they have to be more transparent, and we're helping them to actually be able to get there over the next couple of years, because the future is today and it's really happening now. So that's Connecting Food. Thanks.
Thank you, Maxime, indeed, for this super success story, indeed. And of course, how we as EIT Food would love to see it, that also just for the audience, this is like the end stage, I would say, of our funnel of startups. So we have very early startups in the seedbed program, then we have the Food Acceleration Network with a little bit more mature startups, and then finally rising food stars and stars like you. So very happy to hear your story and to see where it can lead to. And indeed, that it's not the end. I mean, it's maybe for you, it feels more like a beginning, even at this stage. So, no, very good. Okay, I would like to open the conversation with you. There are microphones, so if you want to say something, please grab one. First thing I would like to address, because at one point I started to become a little bit worried, because the French chauvinistic spirit showed, and then I was really like, yes, of course, that's why we are opening up the hub here in Paris, because of course this is the place to be, calm down. But how do we, especially since we are not only to save France, I mean, we want to change the world and Europe as a start maybe. So how can we prevent that, okay, by having this hub here, that then all these French people start to indeed nicely work together and forget about the rest of Europe? Because I think, Simon, you gave a very nice example, because you said, indeed, I will continue to bring my French startup to my German colleagues. So that was a little bit of a relief for me. So can you maybe,
Yeah, maybe let me say just one other thing is I've put my English accent on today. I am French, so I joined Kevin with the French comments. My father's French, my mother's English, so that's why I'm speaking with this very thick English accent. To your comment, the most important thing for any startup in France is to think global from the very beginning. You can think global by thinking just outside of France to our friends in Belgium or Luxembourg, or our friends across the water in the UK. But you need to think global from the very, very beginning. That's the way that I fundamentally feel that will drive your success as connecting food, and Maxine has just said with her wonderful example. And that's the way you'll be able to get access to resources, access to funding, and that's what you need to do. So I don't share your fear, thankfully, because this is what you need to do from the very beginning, is do not limit yourself to France. Think big and be ambitious.
Okay, thanks. Thanks for the relief. Anyone want to add? Yeah, Artem, yeah?
Well, and I think that's, Simon, you're absolutely right. And the whole basis of the EIT is the network, and the network is European. And by the way, hub in Paris is hub number 7. So there are already 6 other hubs scattered around Europe, which are doing exact same thing, helping startups thinking globally, and at the specific stage, bringing them to the right partners and work with the ecosystem to make it happen. So I think, France has a lot of things to show to the world, but I think it's again a combination of the global thinking and possibilities to make it happen, which are going to be present here. And I'm very happy that there is a hub, local, which allows probably engage more and more people in Paris region and across France in these activities.
Good, good. Kevin, yeah?
One thing that I had a discussion with the French Ministry of Economy, who used to be the French Ministry for Agriculture. And he was saying that the French food business is the most siloed he ever saw. And this is why we are so happy to I would say, to nurture and to inoculate this European openness to a value chain of food in France, which needs to be de-siloed, which needs to really open to the fantastic opportunities of innovation that are coming and that are just underestimated by most French actors. As well as I said before, French startups only look too much at France and not beyond. And there is no reason why. You know, if you want, as you said, Maxine, if you want to make the future of food happen, you need to think much, much, much larger. And this is what EIT can provide on top of what already exists in France. And this is why you should be a booster for many, many companies. And this is why we are so happy to have you here.
Mm-hmm. Good. Good to hear. Okay, so also one of the reasons why we are sitting here also with these type of stakeholders is because we have startups and we have corporate partners. So I'm also wondering, like, how does it look like in okay, we are getting to 2022. How does the collaboration between a startup and a corporate like you looks like now? Can someone explain? Maybe if we start with one of the startups, Maxime or Daniel, yeah?
Sure. In our case, for example, it wasn't during the EIT, it's quite recent actually, but we've started collaborating with the Puratos group from Belgium in the last year. And I think I think we're going to talk about it later as well, but what was important for me there is to keep the startup disruptive part. We as startup, we can do things that corporates can't do. This is why both exist. And I think that when you're facing a corporate, they will have their own, maybe I would say, old state of mind, and you're there to innovate, to change it, and to fight for it. So it's like scaling shouldn't be at the price of giving in your value, actually. So it's a good thing to keep in mind. And after that, I think then you're equal. Then you understand both sides' value, and then you can work.
Yeah, and you were able to communicate that to them, and they indeed
Exactly.
understood, and
Yeah,
they know that
indeed.
if indeed we want to go there, we might also change our way of thinking and working
Exactly.
together. Yeah.
We always talk about the startup as the speedboat, and the corporate as the huge ferry. And then if you just take the speedboat and put it on the ferry, then you didn't do anything, you know?
Yeah.
So,
and so, Sonia, do you recognize that? Because indeed, do you understand that sometimes corporates could be maybe a little bit impressive for the smaller startups?
Yes, for sure. Corporate could be impressive, and it could be also very difficult sometimes for startups to understand who to reach the corporate or how corporate could support, in fact, the startup. So I will say, in fact, here there's many ways, I think, of partnering between corporate and startup, but something that is very important is also for the startup to explain what are they looking for, what are their challenges, and how basically the corporate could in fact help. And it is a scale-up, but not only the scale-up. It could be also at a very early stage where in fact through perhaps, I will say, usual way of working, corporate had already experienced things that could help the startup to go quicker to their next, in fact, step. So clearly communication here, openness on what startups are looking at is very important. And the other thing that I could say, reaching corporate is not always, I could say, easy, so really knock to the door, understand what the corporate could offer to you. That's very important, and I think also where EIT could definitively help.
Yeah, I would say also to follow up with what you said, and what you said also, we need to be honest, and within corporates, we face also challenges which are to break the silos within the corporate. And I think that open innovation departments which are here to help you, they can help you to break the silos within the corporates. But that's a challenge also for us. It's the reality, but
yeah,
we
I
want
think
to...
It's also a matter of timing. It's a matter of communication, like in every relationship. Once we feel it's not equal and we're not on the same position and we don't have the same interest, it's not interesting. It will kill the startup, for sure. And I think it's very important. And as you said, like mapping the values. The corporate has values it can offer to the startup, and vice versa. And if we do it deeply, I think it's a perfect solution.
And for us in open innovation departments, we need to bring good examples to convince our colleagues to break the silos. If I take the example of Roquette, you may know that we have very early contacts with what was a startup at the beginning, which was Beyond Meat. We were at the very beginning of the existence of Beyond Meat. We are very happy with this collaboration now, and it's a very good example for the company, and it helps us. I mean, for the open innovation department, it helps us a lot to convince the different silos within the company to overcome these challenges.
Yeah, because I think, of course, here we have the right people who might
you
already
have
understand it,
here.
but
You have the
exactly.
pioneers,
So
definitely.
how do you convince the other ones who are in the other rooms in your company? Yeah.
But one thing that I see also is that I used to work in big companies also, and very few companies understand that 30% of the business of innovation, of the innovation budget, will have to move to open innovation. And none of them is prepared for that, definitely. I always take an example, which is, how could we have had a vaccine for COVID without open innovation? No big pharma was able to make it. It could only happen thanks to open innovation and startups. How can the food chain have the traceability by itself? No, they need you. And so we are all here also, and this is why EIT is also an help and a support for us to have everyone understanding in every corporation that the future of food can only happen if we work together with the guys that are bringing the technologies that will disrupt it. But those guys, they won't be able to make it by themselves, as well as the corporate won't be able to do it by themselves. And we are here to learn how to do it. And this is why it's named Accelerator Network. It's because we also have to learn how to make it happen. It's a constant, and we are even reflecting ourselves on the way to make it happen and to perfect our processes. And this is why you were talking about serendipity and networking. We work together also to discuss and to learn how to consolidate our knowledge and processes and expertise to make it happen, and to bring to cooperate the elements to convince their hierarchy or their peers or their colleagues to open the door and to delegate some time and sometimes resources also to make it happen.
Maxime?
Yeah, I think I totally agree with the open innovation side of things, and I think that's something which is quite critical in as much as a temptation for a startup would probably be to work with a big corporation that could actually end up bending the strategy of the startup. It would be very easy for a startup to say, okay, this is very comfortable, but in fact, the strategy is changing to be very specifically tailor-made to one corporation, which is very dangerous because in the end, it's not going to be a real innovation. The open innovation side of things is for the startup to also to keep in mind what is the end goal. And if you're changing something in an industry, you need to work with lots of corporations. It's very important, which means that also on the corporate side to accept that there will be maybe competitors, there may be other corporations that are on other verticalities that are not competitors, but there's this open side of things which is on both ends. So the startup mustn't be transformed into something which is kind of a business unit of the corporation, because that could very easily happen. And also the corporation mustn't try and bend the strategy. It's quite difficult to do. But I think that the way to do it is to work with lots of corporations. Like corporations they work with lots of startups. That's the open side of things.
Yeah, thank you. Maybe some, because we are getting to the end, so maybe some tricks from both sides of you, or tips, tips and tricks. So how, for example, from you as startups saying like, hey, what can corporates do really to help you better make the connection? And also the other way around. So from corporate side, what do you think startups should do or could do to make things work? Anything want to start? Artem, I see you already.
Well, I can start, so yeah. And I will echo what Sonia said for the startups. Do your homework and come with a real ask. If you're looking for money, there are ways that corporates can help you in this journey. There are funds or connection to the funds, and there are ways of dealing this. If you're looking for a specific project, right? So, and you're proposing to do joint venture agreement or whatever this form can take, again, spell it out, because this will help tremendously for people in open innovation to direct in the right way within the company. So this is a very important. We shouldn't be discussing, oh yeah, let's collaborate. Yeah, that's great, but what for and what on? So so do your homework and see what the company is already speaking of or working with. So these are very important things. So, and that's really, experience. And of course, we would try to apply a reciprocity in this back to, don't work with just one. It's absolutely right. But see what will work with a specific one, and if this one becomes a strategic for you, stick with it. But yeah, do your homework.
Good. Simon, you want to add to that? What would you say to startups? Indeed, do your homework?
Yeah, I will say it in a different way. For me, is especially in B2B, is know your value proposition. That's the first question I'll ask you. So anyone who wants to talk to me later and hasn't got their value proposition in their head, start thinking about it now. But know where you generate value and who you generate value for, at least in your network of customers or your potential customers. That's really similar to what's already been said around the homework is really important. And then the other thing, if I can just add a second point, is patience. 1 day in a startup is 1 year 1 year in a startup is 1 day in a corporate. So, yeah, that's what it feels like, and patience. So, please. Thank you.
Sonia, you want to add something to that?
Yeah, I will add something, I think, a little basically different, but that we haven't talked for the moment, is to the startup also to think about the consumers. Because we talked about going beyond France, yes, definitively, but also about what the consumer really would like. So basically, your innovation or what you think could have a market is really appealing to enough, I could say, people to make it sustainable. So that's what I will give as additional advice.
Thank you. And indeed also something where we indeed as EIT Food can support again with making sure that all these stakeholders, including the consumer, but because I fully agree with you, can be a part of the co-creation or the market testing validation. Your turn, the startups. What do you think that corporates can do to make your life better?
It's a hard question. I'm not sure I have enough experience for that, but if I say it's more a wish than anything else, is that I think corporates need to remember why startups are born, and the fact that taking out a little bit the money out of the picture for both sides and see really the value proposition that is there, and thinking, I think, more about the global impact that a startup can generate than the interest it can do for the corporate itself, and get, I think, a bit closer to the vision of a founder.
Thanks. Maxine?
Yeah, I totally agree. Value proposition is the key word, because if you want to change an industry, obviously you need to bring value to that. And I think that working with different corporates is a way of testing something which starts off as an idea, then it's an MVP, then it's a launch stage, and you perfect it because it's the way of testing it on the market through the corporate who also wants to be launching something or be doing something different. And that's really the test and learn side of things, which makes you may not be a total pivot, but it may be adding things on or improving things and making it more and more useful for the industry, for the market, and totally to achieve the overall strategy that you're wanting to be doing.
Yeah, great.
I would say that every week we have startups coming to us asking to introduce them to corporates, and corporates coming to us asking to be introduced to startups. And in the two cases, we always, the first answer we have is, what for? Why? Why do you want that? And it's the beginning of a process of reflection, which means exactly what you said. What do we want to do together? Why should we go together? In some cases, the idea that either a corporate or a startup has is absolutely not reality. It's just a wish or an expectation or a dream on the two sides. And we should not forget that 80% of the success of the collaboration will not be about technology. It will be about people. And so we need to take time to go well together, to take time to understand each other. And this is where EIT Food is also a perfect or an ideal, I would say, context, because we are doing well. We are first people that want to make it happen, and which know also that they have the resources and the time to learn how to make it happen, and we are constantly perfecting how we can make it happen all together. And this is where we are so happy to be there, huh?
Yeah.
Finally.
No, and I would say that is really a very nice closing word, actually, towards the lunch, I would say. But we do have some minutes. So I would again give the audience the floor also to maybe ask a question around this topic, if there are, or if you say, no, we are so hungry, we are really looking forward to this lunch, then of course that's also fine. And I can also say, by the way, that the lunch that will be provided will also be an experimental lunch. So some of the startups that are connected here to Le Cirque, they also want to, experiment with you, how their new products taste. So that's what we are going to experience. So I'm also looking forward. And indeed, what you say, it's all about people and it's all about the connection. So we are also taking our time today for the networking and for all the matches between you and everyone here. So Catherine, I look at you. Are you ready? You are ready because we are going to celebrate now the official opening of our Paris hub. I'm not sure what's going to happen, but let's just see.
I come from Freetown, baby. I come from Freetown. Hit it. Hit it.
Champagne is at the bar, so you can go. You can all move to the bar, take a glass of champagne, and celebrate with us.
Hit it. Hit it.